That's Eddie. Eddie and I guess Wolfie now. So did you hear the latest song Wolf put out? It starts out and then Sammy, after a bottle or two of his own tequila, goes to sleep, has a dream about Eddie, and then writes a song with Satriani, and it starts out. I thought they accidentally put on Wolfgang's song. I'm like, oh man, they blew it. They're playing the wrong song. They're playing Wolf's song. And I'm like, when are they going to catch this? Are they going to say something? Or are they going to just play it and then say, oops, that was Wolf, Wolfie's, Mammoth Van Halen, whatever the hell he's called. Big Boy Van Halen, the end. Now here's Sammy's song that he had after drinking too much and going to sleep, called Good Night, See Ya, or whatever the hell. And I thought it was the same damn song. What is wrong with everybody? Jeez Louise, man. I mean, I like Eddie, but I'm not a freak about it. I mean, it looks like it because look at the guitar, and sometimes I wear a beanie, and I have all of his guitars, and I love Eddie Van Halen. You know what was weird? Because the last time I went down to talk to Kathy and Richard Rhodes, D'Argenzio, Randy's sister and brother-in-law. So we're walking out to our cars, and on the back of my Chrysler 300C, it's a nice looking car. Right under the Chrysler, I have a chrome Van Halen. It's not a decal because it kind of, it sticks out. It's a sticker. But it looks like it belongs on the car. And Richard and Kathy, stop, and they're like, is that a Van Halen thing? I go, yeah. It looks like it belongs on the car, huh? And they're like, yeah. I go, well, I was going to I buy Randy Rhodes, well, not Randy Rhodes, but Rolls-Royce stickers that they put on Rolls-Royce cars. You can get replacement things that go on their headrest or on the outside of the car, wherever. And I use them and put them on my really nice Rhodes guitars, my really nice Jacksons. I'll just stick those on there because it costs almost $100 a pop, depending on which ones you get. The bigger one is about $100, and then ones about that size are like $50. But they're really nice. They go on a Rolls Royce. So I said I was gonna put those on the car, but then it would look like, look at this guy. He's putting Rolls Royce stickers on a Chrysler. So does he think he's driving a Rolls when he's not? He's driving a Chrysler. I go, that's why I didn't do it. I thought about it, but then I thought, well, that's going to look like I'm just trying to be driving a Rolls Royce. And they're like, oh. And I'm thinking, really? Do they? Because, I talked to Eddie about Randy. And he goes, you know what? One of my biggest, this is like after my mom met him and we went to one of the shows. And I talked to him for a couple of minutes, and I told him, that I grew up in Burbank. And he goes, oh, did you? You ever see us play? I go, dude, guys used to rehearse down the street. And me and my mom and my sister would sit out front of the place that you were rehearsing. It was called Visions down on 3rd Street. And listen to you guys rehearse. And then you'd come out. And it was like a Cheech and Chong friggin' movie. Like they'd open the door and a cloud of smoke would come out. Maybe it was fog from, rehearsing the show. It wasn't. You could smell it. So, Dave would always come strutting out first, and he'd look around, and he sees a mom, my mom, and back then she looked, he probably thought, hey, but then sees the 2 kids, and I'm sitting there with my Kiss shirt on, and so he just looks at me, like he was a dick. I met him, I kind of met him then. He did this second time they came out because we listened to him for a while. And then I saw him at the Whiskey when Motley Crue was playing. He glommed on that whole scene to get as many girls and drugs as he could. And he was constantly doing coke, just like I said in the movie, but he was doing it like he'd lay it out on the bar, the upstairs bar at the Whiskey, and just do the lines, and then take a couple of shots, and he'd have like 10 girls with him and 2 big bodyguards. And David Lee Roth's like 5'7", you always picture these guys huge, and then you meet him, and by 9th grade I was 6 foot and taller than all of these guys. And when I'd meet guys in Kiss, I was the same height as them. I'm like, wow, this is disappointing, You expect these guys to be huge, but they're all midgets. Just like Randy, he was a little guy. I think, what was he, 5'7", maybe? I don't know. I think he was. And he'd still wear, heels, because he wanted to look bigger. He got it. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, Van Halen. So me and my friend were at the Whiskey talking to Mick for like hours, and then like everybody would be gone except for a few hangers on, and so we didn't want to be too much of a weird Mick groupie, so I'd sit there and just ask him everything I could think of, because it looked like they were on the way to becoming the next big thing. I mean, they were selling out every dang club, and I thought, once you did that, the next step is, stadiums. I mean, they've sold out the country club several times. I only sold it out once, my band. One or two times. That was it. And I played there like 4. But the country club is a pretty big place. It's almost as big as like the Budokan place. Anyway, so I go up to David Lee Roth as we're leaving the Whiskey, and I go, "Hey, David, can I have?" And he's like telling the bodyguard, tell those guys to go away. He's like, "No autographs. Can't speak to Dave." I'm like, whoa, I've bought every record and gone to every show that you played here in LA. Treat your fans with respect. And he looks back at me and he's like, yeah, I'm a kid. And he does this, And the guy's like, sorry, Dave can't talk to anybody right now. He's busy. Busy doing what? Blow and picking out which girls he's going to take with? I said, hey, I want an autograph. And then he's like, get him out of here. And so the guy started like pushing me and my friend towards the stairs. And I'm like, hey, you know what, David Lee Roth? Fuck you. And he turns around. And I'm like, I'm going to either die or get maybe an autograph in blood. And he's like looking at me, like staring me down. And I'm like, what are you going to do? And then he just turns around. And the guy's like, sorry, man, he's not giving autographs. I go, can you tell him for me that he's a fucking asshole? He goes, yeah, sometimes you can, but yeah, yeah, sure, I'll tell you. This is the bodyguard. Oh my God. And so as I was walking down the stairs, I said, David Lee Roth sucks. Van Halen should get a new singer. And, you know, you'd hear him, like, start to say, like, you know, who's that effing punk think he is? That's that guy, you know. So, that happened 2 times. Both times at the Whiskey Motley Crue. So then, David Lee Roth leaves Van Halen. But he still is going up, you know. His first solo album, he sells out 2 or 3 nights at the Forum. Cinderella's opening. He does a world tour. He wasn't planning on doing this. He was planning on making a movie, but the movie wasn't working out because it was stupid. He was going to be a big guy in a big fat suit. He thought he was funny as hell, but he was also very stoned and coked out of his gourd. So he wasn't as funny as he thought. He thought he was like, this is going to be like Cheech and Chong, and can't remember what he said. Some stupid ass movie, I can't remember. And it wasn't. So he went on a tour, you know, did good. Then he put the second album out, Skyscraper, and he's playing smaller places, not the Forums. 2 nights or 3 nights. He's playing 1 night at Irvine, and he's on this big, like 50-foot long surfboard. And if you've ever been to Irvine, it's an outdoor amphitheater, so they had the surfboard is going up to the soundboard, and then he'd get off and they, you know, rush him back down. Or sometimes he'd just come back down. Because I saw, oh yeah, so he did play there twice. Because first night, went up, came back down. Second night, he went up, came, and the surfboard was coming back down, and he just turned around and he was doing like this, and the surfboard stopped, and he fell, and was hanging on the surfboard, and everybody's like, ooh, and I'm like, ha 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 ha, loser! Because by then you could tell he had like a hair thing going on, and you know, he was bald, and he was already starting to cover it up, and that bangs and all that. Look at that song, whatever the hell off Skyscraper. You could tell his hair is, you know, not his. So that album does okay, but then the band breaks up. He does another album with that guy. Was it Jason Becker who got the disease? And he did the album, but he couldn't tour because I can't remember what he's got, but like Parkinson's or something. I don't know. But he's in it, and they thought he died like in a couple of years, and he's still alive, and he writes songs with a computer, and it's amazing. Anyways, Dave's career is now meow, 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 and he's bald and wearing, you know, getting hair weaves and all sorts of crap. So I'm leaving. It's like 1 o'clock, and I'm leaving the friggin' Rainbow. I'm like, I'm wasted. I wanted to go home. I had a chick with me, and I'm crossing the street, and here comes Dave, alone, no bodyguards, nothing. And I think he was in a Jeep, and he had fatigues on and everything. I'm like, David Lee Roth. And he's like, that's right, man, Diamond Dave's here. The party's just starting. I go, remember when I tried to get your autograph like 2 or 3 times in like 1981? He goes, how am I supposed to remember that? I go, right, exactly. I go, you know what? You're being a lot nicer now. It's because your career is going into the toilet. And now you're desperate. And anybody that would talk to you, you're going to talk to. You know what? Fuck you. And the girl's like, that's not nice. So she ran up to him and got his autograph. And then he was like kind of happy. I said, you know what? Take your autograph and shove it up your ass. So there's my David Lee Roth story. Not very nice, but he had a, of Of course, you could tell he had an attitude, so it got him in trouble all the time. He's an idiot. He's still an idiot. I don't understand, but he grew up privileged. He grew up a rich kid in the really rich part of Pasadena. If you went to the house that he grew up in, he still lives there. It looks like an Italian villa. It's huge. The guy doesn't know what it's like to struggle. So to him, to make it, he just wanted the fame and the glory. He could care less about the money. He already had the money. So when he was in the crapper, you probably know this. I don't know if anybody read. I don't think it's in the book. It might have been in the book. I can't remember where I heard it from, either an interview or whatever. But he was talking to his uncle who owns that club, Cafe Wa in New York. He's like, I don't understand it. I can't get nobody nobody cares about me. No one wants to hear me, He goes, you know what? When you pulled that crap with Van Halen at the MTV Awards and thought, this is like my big comeback, and you're standing in front of the band that took you back after you left, and now you're acting like an ass again immediately, and Eddie gets pissed off and everything goes down, boop, and you're gone. And then they took Sammy, and they only did it just to piss Dave off. Anyway, so his uncle goes, what you need is to see what it's like to suffer, to what the other side is going through. He goes, I know what the other side, I've gone through the jungles of, Google Bob Boy and all that. He goes, no, you need, because, your dad can hook you up, or I can hook you up with somebody that can get you through training to be a EMT, emergency, ambulance guy. And he goes, you should be in an ambulance and do that job for 5 years in the worst borough or boroughs in New York for 5 years, and then see how the other side lives. Then maybe you'll appreciate what you had. He goes, you think that's what I need to do? And he goes, yes, I do, and I'm going to make some phone calls, and tomorrow you're going to start training. You're going to start your friggin' training this week. And so he did it. And he said only 2 people recognized him. One guy was like a motorcycle accident, and he was looking up, and he goes, did anybody ever tell you you look like David Lee Roth? He goes, yeah, I get that a lot. So lay down, sir, you'll be fine. Blah, blah, blah. And then a girl recognized him. He goes, yeah, I'm not him. So when he came back, he was like really nice to everybody in Van Halen, but it's because he, learned the hard way. But at least he learned his lesson, kind of, until he got enough into him, like touring with Van Halen and getting the glory and the applause, even though he was the worst part of the band. When the band would play alone, they sounded amazing. When they played with him, it was because his voice is shot. I mean, that great scream he was singing from here. He wasn't singing from his diaphragm or whatever. He was all throat, and he just blew his voice out, even though he did take some singing lessons before the first album was recorded.